Three, two, one. All right. Hey, Jason.
What's up?
All right. Hey, folks, we're going to talk about in this video how to turn your prospects into customers. We're going to get 3 tips from my good friend, Jason Fair from Wirebuzz. How you doing, my friend?
Doing awesome, man. How are you doing, Kendall? It's happy Friday to you. I know it's still hot here in the desert, but I've been doing the rain dance like all week, and it's not working, man. What do you got?
No, it's like it's burning up. This summer's
Yeah,
been crazy here in Scottsdale and in Phoenix in general. It's
yeah.
like typically we go out to the mountains and do a little hiking but now it's like you just can't do that.
No, I'm like watering my plants literally every day, and they're still like crispy brown on the outside. I can't water enough. I'm talking to my neighbors, and he's like, I'm watering twice a day, and I'm like, I don't want to water twice a day. I mean, once a day is enough.
Right.
Yeah. So we hopefully next week I've seen we may drop under 80. So I'll take that. If it's
There
going to
you
cool
go.
off, I'll take that for sure.
No, it's most definitely, and that's one of the main reasons being out here in Arizona that I'm like, I don't want a dog because I have to walk it. Like, so
Right.
I got my cat. It's all good,
There you go.
It's
There you
all
go. Low maintenance.
low maintenance is all that I want, and that's one of the things that I love talking with you is because not just the low maintenance, but how you're able in your team through Wirebus is able to integrate video into having those 24/7 sales team members who don't call in, who aren't ever sick. They might disappear sometimes. You have to bring them back to life.
Right. Exactly. Resuscitate.
Yeah, like come on, work, work, work. So today I wanted like to dig in a little bit more about some those good 3 things that you've learned with your team, going through
Yeah.
all these people that you work with, and going through that process of how to turn prospects into customers. And
Yeah.
what's one of your main tips that you give folks?
Yeah. We've learned obviously with COVID, the pandemic, and what's happening, everybody's business has been, upended pretty much. And that's across multiple industries. And luckily, I've been in digital marketing for, a couple decades. And a lot of the things that we're teaching today honestly hasn't changed. It's more of these tactics are being looked at that businesses normally wouldn't look at or approach because now that there's a crisis and they need to think differently, now it's like, oh, we can't get in front of our customers. There's no access. They're not at their desk picking up their phone. And that happened years ago. But, it's a new world. It's a new landscape right now. And, leveraging video, the power of video, to engage and, create that human to human connection it's like top game right now because you need that, right? And everybody's getting Zoom burnout too. It's like, how many 6 hours of Zoom? What if I create through this sales process, personal video outreach about where we're at in the sales process or a video proposal instead of jumping on another meeting. And, nowadays with technology, it makes it super easy. And it's a mindset shift though, for a lot of what we call kind of legacy sales reps that are used to doing the face to face. And it's challenging. And we've been doing the training with them. And it's not only obviously legacy sales teams, it's just, anybody in general from solopreneurs to sales teams with 300 people. It's a different game now. Right. And luckily with these digital technologies, you can actually track, this is the best part, you can actually track on the back end to see who's crushing your content. So if I'm a salesperson and I've got that first prospect outreach or it's that video proposal, right? Who am I going to follow up with?
Mhm. Right, and I think that's key because when you're looking at uh, a couple of things I wanted to talk about. So the tracking is very important, but you
Yep.
also said those folks who don't have a sales team, maybe utilize this as proposals because everyone thinks,
Yep.
oh, it has to be a sales. It doesn't have to be a sales type of thing.
No.
So dig into that a little bit more, if you could, about how has companies who don't have sales teams, I'm thinking like retail mom and pop shops or folks realtors who, are brokerages, they're they don't have a sales unit. They're themselves the brand, right?
Right.
And,
Right.
and so how, if they're able to track what they're doing, how can they do that a little bit better nowadays?
Yeah, and no matter if you're a retailer, e-commerce, solopreneur, there's a lot of ways you can integrate video through your process. And the best thing to do is map out your process and every step of the way, how you're interacting with your customers. And it has to have changed since, right, since March, mid-March, since the pandemic hit. Lay out those steps and understand where can you infuse that human element, because it's probably limited now. Where can you do that? And a lot of times it can be throughout the journey, or it can be at the beginning, middle, or end. And in some situations, like even if it's customer service, so let's say you have clients, they're already working, and you just want to provide mass clarity post sale. So what happens in a lot of organizations, they make the sale and cheer, ring the bell. All right, we got a customer, we're good, right? Well, what's your process after that? Is there ways that you can, incorporate video into the post-sale process to, let that customer know this is the next step? And there's a lot of organizations now that have fairly complex follow-up systems. And I've purchased some of these most recently, and it wasn't the greatest customer experience. And I'm like, hey, there's ways you can streamline this, because you have customer service that are, like typing up these long emails about what's the next step. Well, let's systematize that, right? Let's create templates, but then let's put a video in there, and maybe it's hey, this is Amanda, and we're so happy that you're working with us, and I'm going to walk you through the next steps of, after we work with you, it goes to blah, blah, blah. And now you start creating that human connection, which we all need, but now you're providing even more clarity to that buyer to know, oh, I don't need to worry about it because they just told me the next steps. And that's where buyers get antsy. Once you, convert them, it's like, well, okay, what's next? We don't need that lag into, hey, we've closed them. Let's make sure we get them on some sort of like sequence to make sure we're transparent in what's going on after the sale, because we want to turn those customers into raving fans, right? And so to be able to do that, they need to understand, oh, I had a great experience because they communicated with me all the way. And it makes such a big difference. And I think a lot of businesses are so focused on what's happening from, like, hey, how do we introduce ourselves? How do we make the sale? But then all of a sudden they're forgetting about, what's going to happen after the sale, because we know once you close a customer, we want to keep those customers around because it costs so much more to get a new customer. So how do we delight that customer after we've, started working with them? So there's definitely a few different ways.
Right, and I think that's key because, like you talked about earlier, this is a new era. This is now normal. So every customer that you have now, you've had the prospect, you convert. Now they're a customer, but then how can you make them a customer for life or a raving fan, and then do that in your proper steps of onboarding them properly or after the service properly? And so one of the things you talked about with the first tip is how you can track that and using video to do that, which is great. And then telling them, hey, did they open their email or did they open whatever tool that you can see them, and how long did they even watch that video? There's tools out there that can do that. I know that, and you know that. Yep. But it's actually taking the time and that mindset switch in doing it and putting it down on paper. So what's another tip you have for us?
Well, just to expand on that one too, it's not only creating the video and that person to human, but you can open them up to your culture of your company. So let's say you're one of the things that always comes to my mind is, there's a variety of different companies and how they've, made that post-sale much more creative. Like Zappos is a good example of how their fans rave about them because they're so interactive, and it's the buying process of being able to send shoes back whenever they want, right? But they also open up the culture to be like, oh, that's like a fun, like, energetic environment that they're doing there. And I'm going to share this video with my boss. And then all of a sudden now the boss is talking about it. So not only does it create that human to human connection, you get the tracking for customer service, but you open yourself up to inviting people really into your business in kind of a virtual way that you would probably never do that before. So it could be fun little things that you wear, or animation in the video that make you stand out. So there's some super creative things that you can definitely do, in those videos to make that raving fan talk about you even more, right? It's those talk triggers per se that you can infuse in there that like, oh, I got this great video and Amanda was talking about this thing, but it looks like they have there's a character that's part of their culture of their company. I'd never seen that before. So there's some cool things that you can trigger in these videos that'll help stand out against the competition or anybody else, something that they're going to remember through those talk triggers.
Well, as you're talking, I'm thinking of just being more authentic.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
You using those big words like talk triggers. I'm like, oh, what the? It's like, it's like, wow, that's a whole bunch of words.
Right.
Be authentic, I think, is key. Because after they went through that relationship with you and then they know who you are, you talked about diving a little bit deeper inside the culture. Yep. And that should be simple of being able to get out your cell phone or your smartphone and then take a video of the company lunch that you had.
Yep.
Or the dog day, that you have people bring their dogs or whatever to the office.
Absolutely. And there's cool technology where you can actually create playlists inside a video you send a customer. So if it is, let's say, onboarding, you can do that short intro of, hey, this is Amanda, this is the next steps. We're excited to work with you, and show your background of your company. But then you can bolt on, an already generated video from customer service or marketing, whatever it may be. And all of a sudden you're creating a playlist of, maybe it's 2 videos, maybe it's 3 videos, but once that person watched the video, you want to create a kind of a binge-worthy experience. So if you're saying, hey, this is Amanda, we're excited to work with you, and next steps after you watch me, there's going to be a video that talks about, our widget and what you bought and blah, 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 right? Mm-hmm. So it's a great way to infuse that technology with video, and you can make it real easy, right? And the platforms that are out there today, and there's a bunch of them out there, and they just make it very turnkey. 3 or 4 years ago, that wasn't really an option, but hey, now it is. And obviously in our non-existent, non-customer facing world, it's like, how do you create that, that FaceTime? How do you create that human to human connection? What's your story? And you can do that even after the post sale, which is awesome.
Yeah. And I think to that point now more than ever, it's being that authentic self. And because, you don't have always a suit and tie on your Zoom call. You can be like, we know you're at home. Right. We know that if you have kids, we know that they're sitting at their desk doing their homework.
Right. I haven't worn dress socks since March.
Right. It's like
my budget for, going to the dry cleaner, buying new clothes. I mean, it's like, I'm going to use that money somewhere else now, right? That's like free money.
Right. It just in being that self, being authentic with the free opportunity that you have,
right?
But then lining that out, and so it doesn't matter what type of business you have. It's just thinking through what that experience could be for the other person if they've never met you in real life.
Right. Exactly. And the great thing about video, it has the emotional impact, but it also has the retention. So when you watch a video, you process information 60,000 times faster than actually reading text. So if you have a complex post-sale process and you have a PDF you're sending somebody that is 2 pages, 3 pages long, the retention on that's going to be so low. But if you can at least create a high-level video that says, hey, here's access to that PDF that's going to walk you through everything, and that's great that that's there. But if you want to watch this 2-3 minute high level video that's going to get you up to speed about what's happening, and you're going to retain that much more through the video, why wouldn't you put it in there? And it's so much more efficient to be able to do that. And typically customers, once they see a video, they're like, oh, this is a leaned back experience. I can grab my Snicker bars, right? And like, I can watch this without, trying to sit there and focus on reading a 2-page PDF that has a bunch of text, a wall of text, and you're just like, I'm not going to retain any of this.
Right.
So let's create a video that, keeps them engaged.
Well, in creating video and getting them engaged, could you give us the tip number 2 on how long should they be? video should
Right. Yeah.
for that for retention.
Yeah, it's a frequent question we get, and typically what our response is, the video just needs to be long enough to convey the information you need to convey. So I know it's not the answer that you're looking for, which is it needs to be 30 seconds, right? No, and you have to take it with a grain of salt in the fact that you got to look at it from wherever you're going to put the video in the context of the actual viewer of this too. So there's a lot of varying length. I mean, the average video on YouTube, the average watch time is like 14 minutes on YouTube. So the average person that sits down, turns on YouTube, and we know that's a lean back experience, right? So they know when they go on YouTube that they're going to spend some time. But if the average link is like, hey, 14 minutes, if it's engaging enough and that buyer is going down that rabbit hole to understand more about your product, your service, your solution, they'll spend the time because they want to know everything about it before they have to call that icky salesperson to get the rest of that information. So if that buyer's going down that rabbit hole, we've seen clients in even the medical industry that have a high retention rate on YouTube with average lengths of 8 to 10 minutes plus, because it's typically, if it's helpful, engaging information, you're going to be able to, retain their attention. But if it's something where, in context, if it's a Facebook ad and you're trying to grab their attention right away, that's a different platform. It's a different engagement. So it's kind of relative for the average video length because there's so many different contexts of it. But it's a myth that people think people's attention spans are short. If you create something that's engaging and they're going down the rabbit hole, they'll watch 10, 15-minute videos, no problem at all.
Gotcha. Now, when you're watching those in 10, 15-minute videos, or even the Facebook videos from 1 minute to 30 seconds, whatever they are,
can
you give us a third tip today? Should you use captions or no captions?
Absolutely, captions 100%, because at least on social media, Facebook, 85%, the last stat I believe, watch video with no sound. 85%.
Wow.
So if, I see a video and there's no captions on their subtitles, I cringe because I'm like, you're wasting so much. And it's so easy to get transcripts, upload them to Facebook. And it's really easy. So we always recommend, it's not, obviously if it's a TV commercial, no, but if it's, Facebook, social media, Instagram, any of those, YouTube, get those subtitles up there. And because a lot of times people, well, maybe not now, but before this, they're in a meeting and they're crushing Facebook ads, or they're on LinkedIn. People are at home now, so it's probably not as prevalent, but it's an easy step, but it's missed quite frequently. And it's definitely something that should be included, no doubt.
So when you're including the captions, sometimes I see them, they have everything that they've said written out. And then there's other times that have just some of the high bullet points. What have you seen has been the most effective?
It depends on the content. If it's something where it's longer, like 10, 15 minutes, and it's a in-depth, video that goes into specifics about certain things that you need to do, like step by step, then absolutely. But if it's more like high level, then there's ways that you can actually do like text on screen, not just subtitles. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times when we're creating like explainer videos, those sorts of things, you can also do, put those marketing messages on screen. So that way it resonates with the person that's actually watching the video. So it kind of depends on the context of it. It's one of those things that it's like it depends, right? But there's definitely certain times you shouldn't and don't have to.
Gotcha. And so for those depends, if someone was to reach out to your team at WireBuzz, will you help them with that depends and say, here's what you need to do?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We will advise and guide based on the best results as possible for, the highest execution. And we create everything from, anything from a short 15-second, Instagram or Facebook ad to a 15-minute sales video on somebody's landing page that they're coming from, search traffic to convert that person, and kind of everything in between, TV commercials. So absolutely, we'll advise and guide in anything video related for sure.
Perfect. Well, Jason, thank you for taking time and giving those 3 great tips today, because
Absolutely.
one of the things is that since this is a virtual world more and more, and even though a lot of folks are starting to get back and talking with people and seeing them face to face, I believe, and tell me if I'm wrong, more people are comfortable in talking through video conference calls and knowing that they're paying attention.
Yeah, I mean, it's permeated through a lot of different industries where, as human nature, once we find something that's new and it becomes normal, it's the new normal.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking to a lot of clients just for like normal events that happen in person. They're saying that most of next year is going to be a lot more virtual as well. And that in person in events that typically happen, there's still that stigma of, yeah, I'm not comfortable yet. And they're saying even next year and we work with a lot of clients that go to trade shows, and at least because they're planning right now. They're like, hey, what's going on for next year? What do we need to plan for? Most of them are planning for mainly virtual events.
Wow.
Yeah. And they're like 2022, probably in person may come back.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that change your business, right? So if you're a person that typically goes to trade shows, and I'm sure most of these have already pivoted, but if you're planning for next year and you're trying to figure out, well, if I normally get leads in person, or that's where I interact with my customers, we're going to have to rethink this because we have a feeling that it's going to be a lot more virtual. So now we need to figure out how we can how we can create these virtual events or go to these virtual events and be super effective and really own that space and understand how we maximize those channels. So this year is interesting, and next year is going to be interesting too. I got a feeling.
That's right. That's right. Well, Jason, thank you for coming on. Always appreciate just the great dropping of the seeds of advice that you give, especially around the video marketing, and more than that, just a relationship. Then that's what it's all about. Is just how can you get your relationship down in video or on paper, and then just talk to people and say, hey, this is what I do. This is how I help you out, and then this is what we can do together to make things happen.
Absolutely, man. It's always great touching base with you and going down the rabbit hole and nerding out about video and marketing. Favorite topic. And obviously it's a Friday. That makes it even better. And always available for you, my friend.
You got it. We'll talk soon, Jason.
All right. Take care, man. Have a great weekend.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.